For over 15 years, Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated has been a beacon of light, guiding local families through difficult times. Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated proudly provides all families with compassionate choices for professional funeral care at reasonable prices. Get the answers you need 24 hours a day. No answering services, hidden costs, add-on fees, confusing fine print, or those scary-looking contracts. Remember, Gallop Funeral Services owns and operates the only crematory in Dare County, keeping our cremations affordable and convenient. Gallop Memorial Chapel in Bargo, North Carolina is now open and minutes from Moyock and Elizabeth City. From traditional church services and graveside burials to direct cremations and advanced planning, let Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated light the way for your family. Don't be pressured or confused by the other funeral homes. It's always your choice. Choose Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated. Call Courtney at 252-216-8030 to get a plan started today, and visit our new website at gallopfuneralservices.com.
19 days for Christmas shopping, 19 days to fill the stocking, 19 days for Christmas shopping, only got 19 more.
Hi there, Christmas is coming. Have you done your Christmas shopping? Only 19 days left.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
News team, assemble!
Joining us live because if you want to know anything about the Outer Banks, Sam Walker's the dude to fill you in.
The sea was angry that day, my friends, like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli.
Always appreciate talking to you.
Always good stuff with Sam Walker in the Outer Banks.
Now here's Les Nessman and the news.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to OBX Today Live, presented by Gallop Funeral Services on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sam Walker. Glad to have you along on this Monday morning. We'll get an early start today, and coming up, we got Jessica Sands from the Dare County Arts Council and Chris Sawin from the Outer Banks Community Foundation to talk about the life of Edward Greene and the contributions he made just to their two organizations over the years, and share all the memories there. They're coming up with this in just a few moments. Let's get into the headlines this morning. More counties have been added to the open burning restrictions with part of that ban that's in place across North Carolina. Open burning, open fires, including the use of fire pits and campfires, no longer allowed within 100 feet of any structure in Chowan and Pasquotank counties. Dare County has a similar ban in all unincorporated areas. And with this drought that continues to get worse here in North Carolina, wouldn't be surprised to see this week some of the municipalities adding those bans in place. We do have that beach fire ban that's in place for Cape Hatteras National Seashore and the beaches of Nag's Head. The moderate to severe drought conditions really taking hold as we just come out of one of the driest Novembers in the last 90 years. Now, we do have a bit of a change coming with the weather here in eastern North Carolina in the next couple of days. As you can see here from the National Weather Service, we're going to be in the 70s inland. On the beaches are going to probably be in the upper 60s today. We do have a front that's going to come through. It's a pretty strong cold front, but not a lot of rain with it. And that's going to bring us a change in the temperatures. We do have the potential of seeing a little bit of significant rainfall on Wednesday, but we're not looking at anything that's going to bust this drought at all. And it's probably going to be with us for a while. So again, burning strongly, actually banned in North Carolina, open burning is. If you're thinking about getting that fire pit out and doing anything with it over the next couple of nights, keep in mind that it is dry and it may not be a good idea to do that. You can still use the grill, but again, you need to be careful with it, especially because we've got these winds are going to be kicking up. We've got these dry conditions, and this drought is not going anywhere anytime soon, it looks like, unfortunately. Let's see. Also in the headlines this morning, latest on the Pilot Mountain fire out northwest of Winston-Salem. Over the weekend, they were able to get that 100% contained. It's burned more than 1,000 acres. It's called the Grindstone Fire in Pilot Mountain State Park. Started November 27th from a campfire in an undesignated area. 1,050 acres have been scorched through yesterday. Smoke still visible from the mountain from time to time. Crew's been working on removing equipment from the area over the next few days. So they've got it 100% contained, And really what they did do was do a lot of back burning to burn out some fuels and get that fire up there contained. There's a couple other fires on the mountains. We haven't had any reports of any wildfires here locally, thankfully, so far. But that could change again as we have this drought with the winds as they kind of come back and forth. I was looking at the wind forecast right now. We're looking at south at 5 to 15 today with gusts to 20. Then the wind's going to shift around out of the southwest to the north after midnight. Could see some gusts up to 30 on the beaches. And then north at 10 to 20 tomorrow with gusts to 25. Again, rain likely on Tuesday night into Wednesday. And we could get up to about an inch of rain out of Tuesday night and Wednesday system. But again, not really enough to bust the drought on the north beaches and the inland areas. Hatteras Island, actually, yesterday got some thunderstorms. They are actually above average for rain right now. That's really the only place in North Carolina that's above average is lower Hatteras Island. So looking at this drought still taking hold and going to be with us for a while. Yesterday, a 9-year-old that was participating in the Bath Christmas Parade down in Beaufort County had to be medevaced to Vidant Medical Center in Greenville. The Highway Patrol said the child was riding in the back of a pickup truck during the parade, fell from the vehicle, and was run over by a trailer. Happened around 3:30 yesterday afternoon. An update on that child's condition is not known at this time. The Highway Patrol is investigating. A little more information on that shooting Thursday night in Elizabeth City. 3 people died, including a woman and her 3-year-old daughter from Roanoke Island. Happened in the Perry and Jordan Street area in Elizabeth City just after 5 o'clock Thursday evening. Witnesses told the Daily Advance they heard multiple gunshots. It sounded like they came from different weapons. The victims were inside a vehicle. Upon arrival, police encountered several individuals suffering from gunshot wounds. 3 people dying. Deshae Berry, age 39, 3-year-old Alora Pledger. They're both from Manio, and 18-year-old Jaquan White of Elizabeth City died from their injuries suffered in that shooting. 3 people that are all from Elizabeth City were wounded as well, according to a police news release Friday evening. And it appears to be an isolated incident, according to Interim Police Chief Larry James Sr. It's an active investigation. Still no suspects have been named or other details such as what might have been a motive for the shooting. So a story that we will continue to monitor. Folks on 5th Street and West 3rd Street in Kill Devil Hills. Keep in mind there's going to be a closing of Wyandotte Street at the north side of the West 3rd Street. That's part of the utility and roadway improvements going on along 3rd Street. There are detour in place. This is all part of replacing water lines and also stormwater lines and adding sidewalks to 3rd Street. On the west side between the bypass and Bay Drive, if you remember last week, there was a water line cut during that project that cut off water to a part of 3rd Street last week. So that work continues there in Kill Devil Hills. All right, we'll take a break, come back after this message from Gallop Funeral Services. We'll be joined by Jessica Sands from the Dare County Arts Council and Chris Sawin from the Outer Banks Community Foundation as we remember the life of Edward Greene here on OBX Today Live after this.
For over 15 years, Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated has been a beacon of light, guiding local families through difficult times. Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated proudly provides all families with compassionate choices for professional funeral care at reasonable prices. Get the answers you need 24 hours a day. No answering services, hidden costs, add-on fees, confusing fine print, or those scary-looking contracts. Remember, Gallop Funeral Services owns and operates the only crematory in Dare County, keeping our cremations affordable and convenient. Gallop Memorial Chapel in Bargo, North Carolina is now open and minutes from Moyock and Elizabeth City. From traditional church services and graveside burials to direct cremations and advanced planning, let Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated light the way for your family. Don't be pressured or confused by the other funeral homes. It's always your choice. Choose Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated. Call Courtney at 252-216-8030 to get a plan started today and visit our new website at gallopfuneralservices.com.
And joining us now here on OBX Today Live, presented by Gallop Funeral Services, is Jessica Sands. She is the director of the Dare County Arts Council, and Chris Sawin, who is the former director of the Dare County Arts Council and now at the Outer Banks Community Foundation. Thanks for joining us here on OBX Today Live. And we're here to discuss, as our headline at obxtoday.com says, a remarkable man, Edward Greene, who passed away last week. And there's so many things that he did here on the Outer Banks, Manio specifically. We're talking before we started recording about all the different things that he was involved with. And I want to start with you, Chris, because you being at the Outer Banks Community Foundation, that probably is the one thing that he may have been most proud of being a part of starting with so many others here because of the impacts it has made to so many lives on the Outer Banks.
Yeah, he is part of a big part of what is a wonderful origin story for our organization. He was, widely recognized as one of our 4 founding fathers, and it all started in 1982. A lot of things were happening in Dare County in 1982. I think we're coming out of a period where the Outer Banks was being discovered. I remember growing up down here, there was a lot of new advertising about, the Outer Banks, a secret worth keeping. And we were starting to see more and more visitors in the summer. My folks were in the hospitality industry, so we were seeing it firsthand. And with that came issues, problems. Anytime you go through a growth spurt in any kind of area, the benefits also bring the challenges with it as well. He was invited by David Stick, the noted author and civic leader here on the Outer Banks, son of Frank Stick, one of the most notable artists in Outer Banks history. He was invited along with Andy Griffith and George Crocker, who owned a restaurant by George in the Galleon Esplanade, to a secret meeting. And I think that's sort of one of the cool parts of the origin story is, David Stick asked him, if I invited you to a meeting and I didn't tell you what it was about, would you come? And he also said, George and Andy will be there as well. And I think that, I don't think many people said no to David Stick. So Edward was the one who had the foresight to realize something big might happen, even though he didn't know what it was. So he invited a photographer. And the photograph they took of that first meeting is here in the office. It's on our homepage of our website. It really is sort of the image that it represents the beginning of the organization, and the purpose of our organization has remained constant from that moment to now, and that is to serve the needs of the Outer Banks, the unmet needs. The government and commerce solve a lot of needs for our citizens, but there's a gap, and nonprofits fill that gap. And the Outer Banks Community Foundation's goal is to support those nonprofits and do other things like scholarships and stuff. So we've got a big portfolio, but it all started with these 4 guys getting together. Edward being smart enough to know that something interesting was going to happen. And it really grew from there. And they had a plan from the beginning to involve everybody. And I think that's why they chose a community foundation over a private foundation. So they wanted to involve everybody in the community. And he started along with others, started a program for reaching out to everybody. That when they did a press conference to announce the creation of the organization at the aquarium, there's 150, 200 people there, and people gave immediately. Since then, we've grown to a $25 million foundation, distributed over $12 million in funding to causes throughout our area. And when I was fortunate enough to get offered the position here to lead the community foundation this summer, the first week I was here, I called Edward, and I called Richard as well. Talked to both of them separately, both Edward and Richard Lasserre. And it was the last time I talked to Edward, and he was so kind. He was kind from the first moment I started working with him all the way to our last conversation. he was happy for me that I was here, and that, you know, it was something that meant a lot to him. But he said something that really stuck with me. The thing that he liked the best about the Outer Banks Community Foundation was that on its board of directors and in its leadership, it always attracted the best of the civic leadership here on the Outer Banks. And, you know, he didn't realize it, but he was also talking about himself when he said that. So that's sort of my connection with him as it relates to the community foundation. And, you know, I'm really lucky to have known the guy.
I think we all were. That's one thing, you know, growing up in Currituck, my parents being business owners on the highway, and, you know, we always talk, growing up driving by the billboard up in Moyock that they had, those little connections that we all had. Edward was always gracious whenever we would go down and see him at the store, and he would come into my parents' grocery store when he was up headed to Norfolk. He'd stop by and say, hey, because, you know, that was one thing about the business community as a whole here on the Outer Banks and on the mainland. We're all tied together because it was, you know, at that point in the 80s, and as you said, when the boom really happened, Edward was at the forefront of it with the Christmas shop. And arts was one of the things he was so tied into. And that's really what he started the Christmas shop. And if you've seen the documentary, it was started as an art gallery, the Island Art Gallery and Christmas shop. And Jessica, with that in mind, chance to talk about one of the legacies that will live on for forever is the arts festival that Edward was so key and instrumental in starting in downtown Mania.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I love most about his story is that he came here as a dancer in the Lost Colony. You know, that's what brought him here. And I love hearing him talk about how he fell in love with the place. And you can, once you learn more and more about him, you find out that he is part of the fabric of everything here in Manio, you know, all of it. And one of the big things is the New World Festival of the Arts, which we are going to be holding the 40th anniversary of this coming August in 2022. So he started this festival in 1981 to bring people to Manio. That was the big point of it. He loved the town. He was part of the group that was revitalizing it. And his one big requirement of this festival, even when we took it over in 2013, was that it has to stay in Manio. You know, he didn't want food vendors because he wanted it to be a gift to the town that he was going to bring in, that this festival was going to bring in tons of people to discover how lovely Manio is. And as we know, it's just grown and grown. And so this festival brings in fine artists from the whole East Coast. It's not just, you know, North Carolina. And we have thousands of people who look forward to it every year. And it's grown over the years, upwards of 80 vendors some years. So it's fantastic. We were already coming up with some ideas of how to celebrate the 40th year. And now we're starting to brainstorm how we can honor Eddie also this coming year.
And you talk about Jessica founding it in 1981. Chris and I growing up here, I mean, 1981 in Manio was when things really had started to turn. Manio, downtown Manio wasn't a place you really went to. I mean, the sewage treatment plant was out there where the lighthouse is now, and the oil rigs, which are right next door to the courthouse. I mean, it was not somewhere that people wanted to go. And Eddie was one of the most instrumental people in changing downtown Manio as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah. I graduated in 1982 from Manio High School, and my memory of it was at that time there was a Ben Franklin store, and then over where Magnolia Pavilion was the post office, which looked like it was designed by Soviet architects. I mean, it was just this drab building.
Yep.
So yeah, and it's come a long way. And you know, I'm looking at Jessica now. She's sitting there in downtown Manio, and it's such a lovely place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, the Christmas parade is going on outside. While we're talking, you know, it's just the free, and it's become, you know, the hub of arts and culture on the Outer Banks. That's Eddie Greene. You know, started so many wonderful things here. And he knew the importance of arts as an actor, a dancer, all of that. You know, we have a lot. We owe him a lot. for what Manio has become, for sure.
And the Outer Banks as a whole. I mean, with the community foundation, Friends of Jockeys Ridge, when Carolista was, trying to preserve Jockeys Ridge, he was one of those who stepped in to create the nonprofit that supports Jockeys Ridge State Park. And we talk about all the businesses that he started, besides the Island Art Gallery and the Christmas shop, and that's talked about in the documentary. The downtown, what's now Downtown Books, and the garden shop, which was right across the street from the Christmas shop. All these different things that Eddie did in Mania, but it was all up and down the beach. And that's where the community foundation, I go back to that, Chris, because it wasn't just about trying to support. I mean, the community foundation grew out of his love of this place. And it continues to grow today. You talked about how big, the funds are now that are available. Eddie working right up till the day he died, really. I mean, if you think about it, trying to promote people giving back to the community.
Yeah, if you go, I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Dare Heritage website, Dare County Heritage. It was Community Foundation helped fund the archiving of all of the copies of the Coastland Times back to when it was the Dare County Times, I believe was the name of it, in the 30s and 40s. And if you just search Edward Greene, I have not yet done that, but if someone's watching this, maybe consider checking it out. I kind of think, you mentioned Friends of Jockeys Ridge, you have Friends of the Roanoke Island Festival Park. He's kind of like the Outer Banks Forrest Gump. He's like in the back of every photo of the announcement of just about any great thing that happened here. But specifically for the Community Foundation, I can't stress enough the feeling that Edward and those who joined him in the creation of the organization had, that it had to be community driven. It was thousands and thousands of people contributing. There are lots of big private foundations and big public foundations that are started with one big lump sum gift, and that's just not been the case here. And the areas of focus that we have really are broad spectrum, from health and human services to arts and culture, disaster relief, scholarships. And if you go back and look at the first awards that the Community Foundation gave, it's those categories. That hadn't changed since the 1980s. The first gift was to Outer Banks Hotline, and that was because at that point, it was a long distance call from Hatteras Island to the crisis line. And so they established an 800 number, which, back then you had to pay extra for. And the second award given was to a scholarship recipient. So even in the first days, the goal was this broad spectrum of needs that were not being met by the first two economic sectors that we have globally, and that is government and commerce. And that's where the nonprofit world fills the gap. And when I was at the Arts Council, I was thrilled to apply for and get a number of grants. We're eagerly awaiting our first grant request from Jessica. I'm sure that'll be coming down the pike soon. But the point being that it's just a really broad spectrum of community needs that those guys sought to address. Started doing it in 1982, and it continues to this day.
I'm gonna put y'all on the spot. Jessica, I'm gonna start with you first, because you might want to say, come back to me. What's one of your favorite memories of Edward Greene?
I guess you will have to come back to me.
Okay, that's okay.
No, but listen, I never got to meet him.
Okay.
And I've got to say, I only just became really entrenched in the arts world in the last 2 years when I joined the Arts Council. But you hear his name all the time. I have people coming in, talking to me. I've got people saying, they want to talk about it. They want to share his stories. So to me, it's just learning about him and learning what an important and remarkable man, as you said, he was. And I just love his love of the Outer Banks. He says in the documentary, about that. People always asked him, why don't you travel? You're going to regret it. And he loved this place so much, and he didn't regret not traveling. And I feel that way. I raised my family here. We love the Outer Banks. You can live anywhere, but the community feeling here that he talks about and that he's, responsible for fostering, I think is probably, his lasting legacy and the thing that I really relate to the most. So,
Chris, you like me being native here. Give me yours.
Well, whenever I spoke to him, he always asked how my mom and dad were doing. That really, like some people, all of us know folks who their first inclination is to know you rather than talk about business when you talk to him. But I think having had a number of interactions with him and having him trust me with some stuff that was really important to him was flattering. But there's one thing that I think I've never told anybody until Jessica and I were talking about this yesterday. We have an issue with the elevator in the courthouse, and it's being fixed by the county. The county owns the building, but it's taken a long time because it's a specialty elevator and they actually have to build it from scratch, the vendor. And Edward wanted to come on a number of occasions to art shows that we had upstairs, and he couldn't. He did go to the premiere of the documentary that Brian made of his life, and that was a couple of summers ago. But the EMS folks had to, pick up his wheelchair and take him upstairs, and he didn't want. He didn't like people having to help him. He was very self-sufficient. So he called me one time to ask if the elevator was working, and I told him the story about how difficult it was, and the county had tried a number of things that wouldn't work, and they were concerned and wanted to get it done, but it was taking forever. And he said, well, I'll call over there because I'm very good at being the squeaky wheel. I'm very good at being the old man who sweetly asks when something's going to be done. And he kind of knew what his superpower was. He was so friendly and so lovely, but he got the job done, and he used that personality and the persona that he had in the community of this nice older gentleman to kind of twist some arms sometimes. And I just thought that was really cool that he had that self-awareness that he could call the county and it would mean something different than if I called the county again.
Yeah, you brought up asking about parents. That was one of the things when we would go in the Christmas shop, and I wasn't with mom and dad as I was in college and older and bringing my kids up there. He always asked how mom and dad were doing. And so it just that's going to be my favorite memory of Eddie, and seeing him at the store. I mean, that was where I probably interacted with him during, when the Christmas shop was still open, was because living in Currituck, going down there, it was always a must do, in no matter what time of year. But y'all, thanks for joining me this morning to talk about Edward Greene and sharing just a few little memories there. And we look forward to, Jessica, the 40th anniversary of the New World Festival of the Arts. It should be a very special one. And obviously, Chris, with the Community Foundation and all the great work that y'all are doing there, I'm sure we're going to see more things that are probably going to be dedicated to Edward's memory as well here in the coming months. Thanks, y'all, very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks for having us.
For over 15 years, Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated has been a beacon of light, guiding local families through difficult times. Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated proudly provides all families with compassionate choices for professional funeral care at reasonable prices. Get the answers you need 24 hours a day. No answering services, hidden costs, add-on fees, confusing fine print, or those scary-looking contracts. Remember, Gallop Funeral Services owns and operates the only crematory in Dare County, keeping our cremations affordable and convenient. Gallop Memorial Chapel in Bargo, North Carolina is now open and minutes from Moyock and Elizabeth City. From traditional church services and graveside burials to direct cremations and advanced planning, let Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated light the way for your family. Don't be pressured or confused by the other funeral homes. It's always your choice. Choose Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated. Call Courtney at 252-216-8030 to get a plan started today, and visit our new website at gallopfuneralservices.com.
All right, back here one final time on OBX Today Live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sam Walker. Just wanted to pass along, we did get an update on when, well, we don't know when, but a celebration of the life of Edward Greene is going to be held at a later date. We've got the obituary posted now at obxtoday.com for Edward Greene. And Chris had mentioned when we were off the air on Saturday after our conversation about just some of the other little memories that we had of Edward Greene. But Richard Lasserre, who was his partner in crime, there with the Christmas Shop, the Island Art Gallery, and all the different things that they did together, and this longtime assistant Gail. Keep them in your thoughts, and we'll have more as it becomes available. But a celebration of life of Edward Greene has been scheduled for a later date, which will be announced soon. And as Brian Jones wrote in Edward's obituary, in lieu of flowers, do something good for your community. A couple other stories, and then we'll wrap things up. Nags Head Police Department's asking the public to help identify a pair of trucks that were spotted racing on the beach down on Whalebone Junction, or north of Jeanette's Pier on Thursday. They didn't have exact details other than just these two pickup trucks right on the beach racing. And if you know anything about it, let the police department know. Beach driving is allowed along the ocean front of Nags Head and Kittable Hills with town-issued permits during the off-season. The speed limit's 15 miles per hour. A separate National Park Service permits required to drive on the beaches of Cape Hatteras National Seashore. Permits are not required to drive on the beaches of Currituck County from Corolla to the state line. Dominion Energy over the weekend putting out some tips on how to avoid telltale signs of utility scams and what to do to stay safe. We got details about that in the Neighbor to Neighbor Help Zone at obxtoday.com. It's that time of year when the speckled trout catch, which has been really good in the sounds the last couple of days and really good in a lot of places. But this time of year, we do get those cold stun events that can happen. Won't happen today, but with the water temperatures kind of going up and down rapidly, it can cause problems. And if you see cold stun speckled trout, the Division of Marine Fisheries asks that you report those. And we've got details about that on the H2O page at obxtoday.com. Today's the start of the 2022 election season. Candidate filing starting in North Carolina for the midterms, including all the congressional races, General Assembly, County Commissioner, School Board. Also, municipal elections, and some of the towns and cities did not have their elections this past year because of the redistricting delays. Right now, there were a couple of court cases that were at least not so much decided, but delayed or put off or told, no, you're not going to be able to delay the registration, or rather the filing deadlines. There is still at least one suit that's pending before court trying to block the legislative and congressional maps that were approved last month by the General Assembly. That could change the election schedule, but right now everything's on schedule for the 2022 elections. In sports, let's see. High school basketball, couple of games today. Currituck is hosting Catholic out of Virginia Beach. Also today, Albemarle School at Bethel Assembly and Northside's at Riverside. College basketball yesterday, North Carolina opened its ACC season with a 79-62 win at Georgia Tech. First time to beat the Yellow Jackets since 2019. College football bowl bids are set. First game for a North Carolina team, that's December 18th when Appalachian State takes on Western Kentucky down in Boca Raton. Old Dominion will play Tulsa and Myrtle Beach on the 20th. Let's see. Rest of the schedule. East Carolina and Boston College in the Military Bowl in Annapolis on the 27th. Following night, the 28th in San Diego, is the Holiday Bowl between State and the Air Force. North Carolina and South Carolina going to play for all the Mayo, the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte on the 30th. And Wake Forest headed to the Gator Bowl for the first time in 75 years. They'll take on Texas A&M on New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve playoff semifinals, Cincinnati, Alabama, and Georgia and Michigan. NFL yesterday, Washington beats Vegas 17-15. Second straight week they won 17-15. So now Washington hosts Dallas. And Washington right now is the last wild card in the playoffs after Seattle lost yesterday. Pittsburgh beat Baltimore 20-19. Kansas City over Denver in the late game last night. New England's at Buffalo tonight. All right, the OBX Today Weather Center forecast for today. We're going to be a little warm today. Partly sunny skies, high 67 at the beach, 71 inland, with south winds around 5 to 15 miles an hour, gusts to 25. Tonight, increasing clouds, maybe a shower in the late evening. Then a front comes through, low down to 44. Breezy southwest winds at 15 to 25, switching to the north after midnight with gusts up to 30. Tuesday might see a little bit of rain in the afternoon, mostly cloudy skies tomorrow, a high of just 50 with north winds 10 to 20, gusts to 25. Rain likely Tuesday night, 44. Rain on Wednesday with a high 52, and the beaches might see an inch of rain out of that next system. Inland areas probably not so much, but today's rain, it's not going to be that much. It's going to be a little bit of a shower coming through. So nothing to bust the drought, but we'll definitely get a little bit of rain. Thursday, sunny, 56. Partly sunny Friday, 64. Saturday's partly sunny and 69. Then Sunday, some showers and 65. Coastal Marine forecast today. We'll see a small crowd advisory going up tonight. Southwest winds 10 to 15 knots today, picking up to 15 to 20 in the afternoon. 1 foot waves or less to start things on the sounds, becoming 2 to 3 feet in the afternoon. Seas of 3 to 5 feet. Our water temperatures in the mid to upper 50s. Next tide change in Oregon Inlet to high tide at 9:03. Sunset tonight, 4:48, still the earliest of the year through this week. And sunrise tomorrow is at 6:59. Currently outside the studios in Uptown Nags Head, we've got a little bit of fog, some clouds, and a mixture of clouds and sun, and 52 degrees. And that's going to do it for OBX Today Live here on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sam Walker, presented by Gallop Funeral Services Incorporated. Thanks for joining us. Have yourself a great Monday, everybody. Back with you tomorrow here on OBX Today Live. We'll see you.